All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very random live stream. I've been enjoying doing live streams lately, but if you're watching the recording of this or you are with us live, this is the video I'm making about what I got wrong about the election and why, as well as an update with the World War III stuff, because I sigh, because it's one of those things where if you think Trump just existing and being the president means that we don't go to war, I think you're going to be in for a surprise over the next 2 years. The reason I first made my prediction, so let's just back off here. I have a notes list here. I try to be more organized. So first question we have to ask is, number one, was I wrong or was I right? So far, right now, I was wrong about the election, but I need Donald Trump to be in the Oval Office, making commands, being inaugurated before I say that I'm wrong. Why? Because the reason I predicted a contingent election was because Mercury entered Shadow just 2 days after it, and we have the Mars retrograde in Leo that's happening. What's very funny about Mars in Leo is resting on your laurels. It's being very proud. It's being very confident. But Mars goes retrograde in Leo where that comes taken away. And isn't it interesting that everyone who's pro-Trump is very like, that's right, we won, blah, blah, blah. That to me is like, uh-oh, that seems primed and ready to go for Mars retrograde. And you know what would be really funny? If Joe Biden said, Kamala, you should be the first black woman president. Get up here. And that could happen. Why can that happen? Because the last Mercury retrograde of 2024, the one that was in Virgo and in Leo that happened last summer, was literally during that period was one of the craziest political periods in American history. Genuinely. Like, Trump almost got assassinated. The Democrats refused to run a primary. They then pretty much installed Kamala Harris as the the candidate for the Democratic Party. Never has that happened before. And we got this, right? So why I say all this is this Mercury retrograde to me is, let's get through the Mercury retrograde first, right? And Mars stationing retrograde in Leo, I think I could see all of that happening. Now, could I be wrong about that? Yes. And in my election prediction video, I said, I think Trump wins, but Kamala becomes president. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if Trump won and then Kamala actually becomes president, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to gloat a little bit there because I said that kind of specifically, and I wasn't really sure what I meant by saying that. I just felt like I had to say that. But anyway, we'll see. We're going to see, right? However, I was wrong about the contingent election. And I want to be clear about why I was wrong about Kamala Harris not becoming the president. So, depending on how long you've watched me, depending on, again, how long you've been on the ride, I've been saying Trump was going to win the presidency since late last year. And I just want you to put yourself in my shoes. You're looking at the future, you're looking around you, but then you also have a social media platform where hundreds, if not thousands of people say their wildest opinions about you. And I would say, I think Trump's going to win. And people would just go off. Because again, people have Trump derangement syndrome. And after a while, it kind of eats at you to go, maybe they're right. I don't know. Like, you start overthinking things. I did predict that Kamala Harris was going to replace Joe Biden. I predicted that. I was a little bit wrong about it, but nonetheless, I got something right there. And so I thought that was supposed to happen in June. I wasn't expecting that to happen. But from about May until literally August, I was like, Trump's going to win. I said that multiple times, and that was between him and Joe Biden. Now, when Kamala got up, and I've done this astrology for you guys. If you haven't seen my election prediction video, I would recommend watching that because I really just go over it. But Kamala Harris, peak L1 period, peak L2 period, all of these things happening. That would make sense that she is in the peak of her career. But it also makes sense that the peak of her career would be as the vice president, if not for her possibly, or Joe Biden possibly dropping out, her becoming the first, president for 5 minutes, and then Trump coming in. So that could be a thing. But the reason I predicted her was not because of her astrology or Trump's astrology. It was because we are going into war. That's the thing that's been frustrating me a lot with this Trump stuff is everyone's like, cool, no war. Now, personally, like, again, this is probably going to get me super, attacked. I said I wasn't going to vote, and I ended up voting, and I did vote for Trump. This is the first election I've ever voted for in my life. And the reason was because, number one, if I thought Trump was going to win, I wanted him to at least win the popular vote as kind of like an FU to the electorate or whatever. The second reason was, if we're going to go into war, no matter what, no matter who is president, we're going into war. I think Trump would probably be a better person in a position for that, given his track record, based off of genuine facts. So I did. And coming back to why I predicted Kamala was going to win was because, again, I look at the future and I think war, and I think, okay, if Trump is the anti-war president, and whether or not you like him, or you think he colluded with Russia, or you think he whatever, if you look at his track record versus Biden and Kamala's, Biden and Kamala are more pro-war versus Trump. It is simply just how many wars did they fund and how many wars did they not? So when I looked at that, I figured who's going to be the most likely, and that made more sense for Kamala for me. That's why I got that wrong. That's where I'm coming from on that. But if you watch, I did 2 live streams. I think 3 live streams, actually. I did one after Trump got shot. My bad. The first one I did was after Trump's arraignment, and he was supposed to go to jail, that the Supreme Court, something like that. I could find it. But I went live after that, and I said, okay, so Trump has this L1 peak period that's coming up, right? Hold on. Let me go to the right camera. So Trump has this L1 peak period that's coming up. Let's go to Donald Trump. Trump. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna come back to that because you're asking about Putin. I'm gonna get to that. Why can't I? I'm looking. Hold on. He's here somewhere. I have too many charts at this point in my career. Okay. So here's Donald Trump's chart. We go to his zodiac releasing. Look, he enters the peak of his career April 20th of 2025, which, by the way, so does JD Vance. He's got an L2, I think, peak period coming up then. So does Kamala Harris. She's got an L2 peak period coming up then. There's a lot that's actually going on in April, not to mention the Venus retrograde, the Saturn ingress into Aries, Neptune ingress into Aries, all of the things that are happening that I've talked endlessly about. Like, again, shit's coming up. Like, it's so anyway, I say this because after Trump got, what's it called? It was like he got found guilty of all the charges. I said, something's happening here. We're not done with Trump yet. So, like, I was even like, if he loses, we're not done with him. If he wins, to me, so if you're not understanding what this is, zodiacal releasing is a timing technique. And what it shows us is when is someone at the peak of, specifically when you're using law of spirit, we're looking at career topics, but within career topics, when is someone at the peak of their career, the height of their career? Donald Trump is a celebrity, he is a billionaire, and he was the president. And according to the math on astrology, he hasn't even peaked yet. What else do you peak to? And for people, we're like, well, he's going to be like a dictator, blah, blah, blah. Well, we just don't have the evidence for that. We really don't. Like, what's been very frustrating is seeing people I know who are very smart genuinely think that the end of the world is happening as Trump's going to be the president. More specifically, it's like, women that are like pro-abortion and stuff like that. We survived 4 years with him. Now, I'm here to tell you, this 4 years is not going to be like the last 4 years, but we're probably going to survive. I would argue a lot of it is probably not going to just be Trump's fault in general. There will be stuff that is his fault and that is his doing, but it's going to be mostly things that were going to happen no matter who was president. But I look at this as by April, 4 months into his presidency, he hits the peak. I have predicted that. I really think if there was a time he was going to get assassinated, it would be here. This makes more sense to me. Because what other peak do you hit besides what? Like, again, being becoming a martyr. Because you have to understand, too, I've also brought up civil war, and that has really calmed down. But I'll put it to you this way. If Trump got assassinated before the election, that's like really going to sow some division. But if Trump gets assassinated, because again, this is the other thing. People think like we're safe and free, like, oh, there's not going to be some sort of civil war because Trump's president. It's like, literally, they've tried to kill him 2 to 3 times already. And the Democrats just essentially said, okay, Trump wins. The Democrats also, a lot of people that I'm friends with that are very liberal, finally they're having a moment, and they're so close to getting it. Because all the Democrats were like, 15 million more Democrats voted last election than this election. And they're like, where did the 15 million Democrats come from? Do you know how many people 15 million people is? I believe the state of Colorado is 6 million people. So it's about 3 Colorados worth of people. Just, by the way, they didn't show up for the first Obama, for the second Obama, for the first Trump, but all of a sudden came around for Biden and then disappeared. I'm not the biggest person of like the election was stolen. Like, I mean, this is if you think anything is integral in this country, I think you read a book at some point. But to me, it's like, oh wow, 15 million more people actually voted last time than this time. That's not a small number. That is a gigantic number. And the fact that they didn't pull any shenanigans, Trump got elected, it was pretty clear, is pretty interesting. So I look at that happening, right? He got in. If he goes, again, if he gets assassinated, that makes the most sense for me for some sort of Civil War stuff. Coming back to all of this, I still believe that we're going to go into World War III. And why is that, you might ask? Well, number one, actually, this kind of brings me into the super chat question. So Kevin Blanco says, are there any current or upcoming transits to Putin's chart that indicate major changes in his power or public image? Yes, Putin dies in 2026, if not 2027. I'm putting money that he dies in 2026. Why is that? So if you haven't watched my Saturn-Neptune video already, I made a whole hour-and-a-half podcast about the Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. Every time Saturn conjoins Neptune, something happens to Russia. Me and SJ have talked about this. I think SJ and Dan Waits talked about this. This is like known. 1953, Putin was born and Stalin died. Interesting. 1989, these are Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. The USSR falls. We get our next Saturn-Neptune conjunction in February of 2026. Putin has a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in his chart, and this next one is happening in his 6th house of ill health. I think he dies, to be honest with you. If not, something genuinely big, and not big as in like, oh, and like, I love this idea of, I'm not mad at you, Kevin Blanco, but you said, indicate a major changes in his chart or public image. Public image does not matter to these kind of people at all. Like, these are like, if public image mattered, he wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. If public image mattered, none of this would be happening whatsoever. It's much deeper than that. It's typically about money, the survival of their people. I don't really like Peter Zion, but he makes some good arguments about like them. Like, they're like, I mean, Peter Zion's one of those, absolute retards that I cannot believe he probably makes so much money and he's just lying, being like, oh, Putin's going to go invade Poland next. You'll probably see some sort of a hot spot in Poland, but it's going to be some fucking fake bullshit. Ukraine is really the center point. But long story short, speaking of this, why do I also feel as if World War III is still happening? Well, today we had the first ICBM being launched, the first intercontinental ballistic missile being launched in Ukraine. That is not a de-escalation of war. And even though Trump's going to come in, and I would imagine, again, by the way, if there is a peace deal signed, I really hope people realize how many Ukrainians died for literally nothing, because a peace deal could have been signed at any fucking moment, And the Biden administration, as well as Boris Johnson, went in there and said, "You're not signing that peace deal. We want the war." And so Zelensky I think it was like 700,000 of his men die. It's pretty disgusting stuff when you actually think about it. Like, I really hope people understand how simple the peace treaty is going to be. But anyway, so what we're looking at is war is still continuing to happen. The other reason for that is, so we have Pluto going into Aquarius. On my Instagram story, I just shared this robotic firearm. It was like an AR-15 and this robotic just going bing, 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 bing. Like, that's the, like, we're not developing military technology that level to not use it. But yeah, pretty much the other thing is it's the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction that also started the First World War. And that was also during the Russian Civil War, the Russian Revolution. I can't remember exactly, but long story short, it is like not happening. I should say it's all happening. I think what the hardest thing for me to understand was, as an astrologer, was like, I predicted Kamala, right? Because of the war stuff. It made the most sense to me, but I was wrong. So now I think in my head, okay, what if Trump is at the helm? How does war look? How do we get into war? And again, this is why I felt more confident voting for him, because if we're going to get into war, number one, if we're going to get into war, at the minimum, I want to at least win. I don't want to lose. That would be bad as well, right? Like, if you're going to get the Bolshevik Revolution, thank you, Kevin. If you're going to get into a fight, you don't want to get into a fight, but if you're going to, you're going to want to fucking win. That's just the reality of it. And the calculus of how we get there now, I don't know, but we get there. Whether that's some fake, again, you have to remember, coronavirus and COVID was, what was the technical name for COVID? If someone could put that in the chat, it was SARS-CoV-2. Remember, there was a SARS-CoV-1, and we did not lock down the world. But we locked down the world for a virus that killed, had a death rate of literally 0.02. And I know a lot of people were affected by COVID, but you have to understand, the reason why your food is a lot more, the reason why gas is a lot more, the reason for everything that is pretty much a problem today is because they decided to lock down the world. Why is that? They locked down the world. No one had money because they weren't working. So the Fed then injected cash into the system. It created the biggest wealth transfer in history. What that wealth transfer did was then increase the level of stocks. Stocks went absolutely through the roof. And because no one, again, you got your little, stimulus check. That's what you got to live off of. But when you inject $6 trillion into the economy out of thin air for nothing, that creates inflation. And that creates all of these other things. Like all of the people that are like, oh my God, greed. It's corporate greed that is causing inflation. Please read one book on economics that isn't Marxist theory, for the fucking love of God. Injecting $6 trillion into the economy is going to cause inflation. So when we come back to that, I look at the COVID situation as that was an attack vector. That was the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I think there was something to say about them pulling that off to go after Trump. Because again, you guys like dramas, right? Like, we've all watched TV before, like good TV. Like, I've heard Game of Thrones is really good. I can only think of this through maybe a couple other, but you also have to understand this is a power game. What people are willing to do to remain in power is very wild. And it's not just, oh, we're going to let Trump win. So I say all this to say, hold on, let's read this comment. This is going to be interesting. When it comes to the current cabinet choices and uprising Christian nationalism, are there any predictions you might have in terms of how society is going to be fit in the future? I personally, and this is my personal opinion, I think the quote unquote rise in Christian nationalism thing is really overblown fear. This literally is a Christian nation by doctrine, and sure, we might want more separation of church and state, but to understand where the idea of democracy genuinely comes from is from Christianity. It does not come from Islam, does not come from paganism, does not come from anywhere else but Christianity. Sure, you could say Catholicism, but same shit for the sake of argument. I don't think this is going to be as big of a deal as people want it to be. I think this is a boogeyman. And when it comes to, again, what Texas does, saying, oh my God, we're going to throw a woman in prison if she gets, an abortion after 5 minutes of getting pregnant. It's like, until that's in law, I don't think so. But what I think people need to understand a little bit more, no, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm saying that the fears of that are overblown. I think the fears of it, of like, oh my God, we're going to go to this Christian nation, are genuinely overblown. I don't think it's really going to happen. Again, one of my other things is because, for example, this is the same thing I've criticized Democrats about, is there's what a president says that they're going to do, there's what they can actually do, and there's what they will do. Now, things I would honestly say are going to happen is deporting of illegal immigrants. And that's also a vector I believe will cause the Civil War. Now, why is that? You have to understand. So right now there are, the cartels are now transferring weapons over the border and staging them in places like Tucson. And I don't know how much you guys know about the cartels, but the cartel isn't like your little skinny Mexican guy slinging, a dime bag of Coke, a dime bag of Coke, more like a bill. The cartels are fully funded paramilitaries. They are not just, thugs with a pistol. They've got straight up like, UTVs, they've got tactics, they've got night vision, they've got comms, they've got data. Like, when it comes to, and again, I also predicted this too. I almost made a video about this and I didn't, but I got really pissed off about the Iran war. And just, again, it's so dumb. Like, the other thing I can't stand about, I think Trump is more anti-war, but God, just the whole Israel, and we need to defend Israel with all of our money, is just, it's bullshit, especially for Iran. Iran used to be one of our greatest allies, by the way, because we actually installed their president. That was all their Saturn Neptune thing. So Iran's a big part of this, but we're going to go to war with the cartels. This is a big thing that the now right-wing government is saying. And that's a kind of a big deal because, well, you might think, oh, war with the cartels, that's going to be over the border. If you live in Minneapolis, if you live in Des Moines, if you live in Boise, if you live in Charleston, if you live in Buffalo, there are cartels that are active within your city. You just don't understand it yet. Now, is it 100,000 people? No. But what you have to understand is this idea of, again, even just deporting 20 million illegal immigrants, which on one basis I think is good, but on another basis is going to have repercussions, if that makes sense, is kind of a bigger deal. And I do think that as we go into this, and again, they're talking about how fentanyl is killing the streets, and I've heard so much rhetoric around the cartels coming into play. And I mean, again, too, if you live in California, if you live in any rural part of California between like, like Kern County, all pretty much like where the Sierra Nevadas are, like Bakersfield, the cartels like run those rural areas. Like there are huge, massive grow ops of weed happening there, and they fucking kill people to keep control of the power there. I've talked a lot about like how I've gotten into like guns and all this other stuff. And I'm so grateful I have, because I've learned so much more about what the hell is actually going on in this country. And it makes me feel actually like I have some sort of level of understanding of what's going on. If we do go to the war with cartels, which right now there's a lot of talk of special operations forces going in and doing stuff, and they're going to learn really quickly, it's going to need to have a conventional military force, which would be, again, drone strikes, maybe some infantry, some sort of occupation will probably end up happening to some degree. That is going to make it's going to create quite a bit of problems, and you will see that here in your home at home, right? You will see retaliation. So I say all that to say, I think the first thing is, number one, like, I'm not afraid to admit I got the election wrong, but hear me out. I need to see Trump. I just need to see Trump in the Oval Office calling shots and things happening before I feel comfortable fully admitting defeat. And I think you can understand why. Mercury retrograde, Mars. And again, where the real money shot for me is if Joe steps down for whatever reason and Kamala steps up. Is that not likely? Yes, I think it's not likely as well. But if it does, that means I was the only astrologer that was correct, because I said Trump's going to win, but Kamala will be president. So we're going to see. So, but other than that, as of right now, I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. I even said in my video, I think a lot of astrologers are going to be wrong about this. And I don't blame them, because this one's hard. That was not like there's a clear winner. And also, too, you have to understand, when you look at the election numbers, 15 million more people voted in the last election. And all of a sudden that didn't happen. Like, you can't sit here and say that was you have to, do you know how many people 15 million people are? There's 8 million people in New York City. So 2 New York cities of Democrats didn't show up. Sorry, I'll be a little bit skeptical. So anyway, that's my take on it. Now, for the people on the right that are excited and that think Trump is going to not cause war. War happens no matter what. And it's one of those things, too, that I've thought about, that, like, I think it is almost unfortunate that Trump won, because if he wasn't, in 10 years from now, people will look back at Trump as being the last good president that we had in terms of the U.S. being stable. Now that Trump's won and he's in the presidency, and he is the president, the things that we're going to go through in the next 4 years are going to be blamed on him, and he will have a much worse rep, and for better reason, right? Like, when everyone's like, Trump was I saw like one of those stupid Hollywood actors that gets paid way too much money for being a terrible actor, was like, 2016 through 2019 was so crazy and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, no, it wasn't. Like, no one's life here was, I mean, most people agree. And again, this isn't for everybody, but economically speaking, most of us were probably better off during that time. Come on, man. The Dems don't lie. Oh, you poor thing. I'm happy that you still think that way. You should go look at, all of the videos of every Democratic president for the past 40 years saying that they're going to, codify, Roe v. Wade, and didn't. So, they all lie. They all go through this stuff. And that's the biggest thing. Now, again, that's why I'm almost a little bit nervous about there being this idea that there's not going to be any war, because there's going to be. The question is, which war is it? I believe it's still going to be NATO and Russia, just because there's too many indicators with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I think Iran comes into play, but I almost wonder if we're just doing another coup on Iran, just like we did in 1953 during one of the last Saturn-Neptune conjunctions. The other thing is North Korea. So the armistice. So by the way, if you're not familiar with this, North Korea and South Korea are technically still at war, but they're at an armistice, right? They made a peace. They didn't really make a peace treaty. They just stopped fighting. So that happened during a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in 1953 in Libra. This next Saturn-Neptune conjunction in February of 2026 is in Aries, the opposite sign of that. My take is, I'm not as worried about China and Taiwan as I am about North Korea and South Korea. And again, what's really interesting is if you look at 2021, late 2021, Putin's putting all these soldiers on the border and all this other stuff, and everyone's like, Putin's not going to invade Ukraine. That would never happen. That would be crazy. And then he did, and everyone was like, whoa, right? Kim Jong-un is straight up being like, we're preparing for war. We are stockpiling food. We are stockpiling missiles. We are getting ready for war. I'm gonna take it at his word. Now, again, does it not happen? Maybe. But I would really look at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction as a huge possibility for North and South Korea to get involved. And why that would be beneficial for people like China is that's going to divert U.S. military, assets to the Korean Peninsula, as well as Japan and all that other stuff. And then if China wanted to invade Taiwan. Now, the other thing I've been thinking about with China invading Taiwan is the Trump tariffs. The Trump tariffs will be really interesting of whether or not we actually do end up going to defense of Taiwan. That's where I just don't know how much any of this is going to happen. But the other part of it is I don't really see the China-Taiwan stuff kicking off until at least 2028 at the earliest, if not 2030. And that's just because of the Saturn-Uranus conjunction in Gemini, which during World War II, we had Saturn-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. this is really funny. There's literally so much. I've seen so many photos. Dude, I literally follow combatants in Russia, like from the Russian side and the Ukrainian side in this war. I see the photos from the war. They're there. Like, it's not propaganda. And it's not like Telegram shit. It's like straight up like fucking other stuff. But anyway. So, let me be clear about where we're at. This spring, we absolutely need to be paying attention to what goes on with Trump on April 25th. I don't think that we're out of the woods yet for some sort of a civil conflict. And again, my formal prediction, and you're going to be hearing me say this, is, and I say this in my client work all the time. I'll be like, hey, this thing is going to happen at this time. And then I'll have my clients come back and say, hey, you said that this thing was going to happen at this time, but it ended up happening 2 or 3 months before. And I always go, that's not what I'm talking about. It's got to be at the time. With astrology, we can give you the right context for the majority of the time. We may not be able to predict the exact thing all the time, but I'll tell you exactly when. I'll tell you exactly when it's going to happen. Now, why I say this is this day right here. I believe on July 4th, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, I believe on the weekend of July 4th, there's going to be a terrorist attack here in the United States. To what degree, I don't know. But this is the Mars-Uranus conjunction. We were founded on a Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. The second Mars, and again, Uranus goes through returns in the zodiac every 84 years. The U.S. War of Independence was happening with Uranus and Gemini, and we signed the Declaration of Independence with the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. So it's in the birth chart of this country for this specific transit to be important. Well, fast forward 84 years. 84 years on the first Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini was the day of the Battle of Fort Sumter, which began the Civil War, which was also the same day Neptune entered Aries. And if you look here, Neptune's in Aries. That also happened. Now you fast forward 84 years later after that, and what happened? That was when the U.S. dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan. Now, it seems as if there's only one outlier here in which the U.S. on that day wasn't necessarily attacked, because we were under attack during the Revolution, we were under attack during the Civil War, but during World War II, we were attacking another country. So I believe 2 things are either going to happen. Number one, this is when we are launching bombs. We are, if there was also a day that the U.S. were to do a nuclear strike, I think it would be here, in my opinion. Could it be earlier? Yes, but like, my job is to do the astrology, right? I think this is when it would happen. And again, at the minimum, this is when we are formally in a war with another country and we are attacking them, and then, or we get attacked. Now, do we get attacked from a different country, or do we get attacked from within? I don't know. But this is the day I'm looking at, is July 4th, 2026. Because this is the solar return of this country, this would also mean this is in the solar return chart of this country. And I believe that it is from July of 26 to July of 27, we see the meat of whatever this war stuff is during this time. And so it's interesting to me that so much stuff kicks off in the spring of next year. And again, between March, April, May, June, July, August, we get this really big introduction. This is kind of like, okay, like, you know, what's the peace deal with Russia? What's the peace deal with Ukraine? What's going to be, we get an introduction, but we don't actually get the event yet. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. But I'm making this video to sit here and say, you know, I was wrong about the election, and I'm totally happy with taking that L, but I want Trump to be sitting in the Oval Office first. My only thing I could still be right on is Trump winning the presidency and Kamala becoming president. If that happens, I'm going to gloat because I was correct. You know, fuck you. Or I shouldn't say that. I appreciate you guys. But like, you would do the same thing if you were me. So, but the other thing I wanted to clarify is war is still happening. War is still happening. And we're not getting out of that one. And as much as everyone here really cares about things like, I don't want to say even just like everyone, because I understand what I'm saying. It's going to be difficult to do anything, like care about anything else, if that makes sense. Like there was like to me, I really did think it was pretty wild how the left was like, hey, we want to protect abortion rights. That's our number one goal over everything. And I mean, like, I guess that makes sense because that's like their issue that they fight on. But at the same time, like, we're all going into war. So it's hard to compare that, if that makes sense. So, yeah, the thing is, though, you know, there's a reason why astrologers picked Kamala. Now, my argument is I think a lot of astrologers are full of shit. A lot of astrologers picked Hillary Clinton last time because they liked Hillary Clinton and they hated Donald Trump. A lot of astrologers picked Joe Biden because they liked him, or they liked him more than they liked Donald Trump, or their hate for Donald Trump outweighed their support for their hate for Joe Biden. I predicted Joe Biden winning. That one was actually kind of easy. I said pretty much for a full year, I think Trump is going to win. And then at the very end, I thought too much about it. I got too in my head about it. And I was like, you know what, Kamala. And that's my fault. I learned a lot from this election. So, but we still go into the war stuff. It doesn't matter who's at the helm here. So that's pretty much the few things I wanted to say about that. Is summer of 2026 is really the loudest. Big things are happening to Trump in April. Big things are happening. Maybe even May, but I would argue it might be a little bit closer. But let's go ahead and go over some questions. If you have super chats, I will, of course, prioritize the super chats. But if you have questions, let's go into it. Thank you, April, for the super chat. By the way, I think these super chats are funny because, like, I don't even know if I get them. Like, YouTube has never been like, this is what you made in super chats. And I don't see a difference that much in, like, how much I made on YouTube. So I don't even know if I get these at the end of the day. So here's the other thing. While this is good advice, so Dark Skin Tarot says, yes, at BRB, I think people should start growing their own food, i.e. veggies, save and learning about survival and eating off the land. Eating off the land, you're going to learn really quickly. You're going to have to hunt. That's a whole other issue. But here's the general reality. Reality is not going to look all that much different. It's just going to be like, you're still going to have to go to work. You're still going to have relationship problems. There's still going to be drama. You're still going to go out with friends, but there's going to be just a bigger emphasis of war going on. Oh, by the way, if you're into fashion at all, I'm starting to see more camouflage in retail stores. And I'm telling you right now, war and camouflage is coming back really hard. But this time, it's 2024, 2025. You got to know your camouflages. Study on your camouflage. I saw a guy wearing like Flecktarn as like a fashion piece the other day. So anyway, why I'm saying this is I don't think you need to worry this much. Why I say this too is like I've gone through the loopholes of being like, oh my God, war, and what's it going to be? At the end of the day, it's really not going to be as crazy as you think. Now, for example, does that matter if, like, let's say New York City gets, bombed? No, because then what? If we get, nuked, then we get nuked. That's it. But it's not going to be this like Mad Max apocalypse situation. I think the biggest thing is understanding, again, your community, understanding what resources you have, understanding too, for example, you're not going to be a one-man team. We need community to survive. You in particular may not be having to grow your food, but someone else, you might have to get your food from them. And you need to be able to have some sort of a resource, some sort of an asset, some sort of a skill that you can provide to that community as well. Like at the end of the day, I'm a man. I can provide security and I can provide muscle. That's a big reason why I've also gotten guns. What else can I provide? Right. So I look at this as, again, it's really not going to be the end of the world, but just kind of this like idea that now, actually, hold on. I forgot I wanted to mention this. Okay. So there are a few of you here who know what I'm talking about when I say, so there's a bunch of astrologers that are obsessed with Andre Barbeau, and because he predicted COVID. Andre Barbeau also said 2026 is the greatest astrology he's ever seen. And a lot of these people who believe this are super, super liberal and left. And my question is like, okay, do you still believe that? Like, I'm not really like, this isn't even like I'm mad at you, but more of like, okay, do you believe the astrology or do you believe the politics of what you see in front of you? Like genuinely asking that. Like I would ask that to like my astrology colleagues. If Andre Barbeau says 2026 is gonna be great, and you believe that he says that is correct, but Trump's in president and you think that's bad, what conclusion are we coming to here? My theme is this. If you've been watching my content, I've been on some really sick shit lately on personal development, growth, doing all that. I'm still on that. Because just because war is happening, that doesn't mean you still can't live the life that you want to live. That does not mean that you have to be miserable and poor and starving. In my opinion, we have got it so good over the past 80 years where we've lived in complete peace. He also said Russia would be the world savior, I believe. Yeah, I think that was the other thing too. As I was joking with Gordon White about this, it was just like, he was kind of like a communist. Where I'm like, of course, like the techno, dystopian theocracy is going to be, his savior. But you can still do all of these great things. You can still live the life you want. But what I wanted to say was, maybe we need something like this to wake us up because we've lived in peace for so long. Like, you guys don't understand. I saw Cameron Allen. Shout out Cameron Allen. I know he's probably not watching this, but when people complain about their privilege and that they're oppressed, yet you live in the richest country and the most powerful country to ever exist in mankind, and you have things that the richest of rich men throughout history couldn't even dream of having, is mind-blowing sometimes. And I say that passionately because we don't understand how good we got it. And I think when things get really real, we get to actually see who we are on the inside and what we're really about. And again, it might be difficult for you to get off your feet and to, do the things you want to in life because things are so simple right now. You don't have a bear chasing you. But if you had a bear chasing you, would you be more proactive on doing the things that you want to do? Would you be more proactive on living the life that you want to live? And the other thing too is building up the resiliency now to navigate the future. And even though it's going to be tough, do that now because you're going to need it here in the future. Like, I do think that there's going to be things in the next 4 years, specifically the next 4 years, arguably the next, 8? By 2036. No, so like 12 years. But 2036 is when I think we're like finally closing out this chapter, which I know people say 2036 feels like a long time. Today, the distance from today in 2036 is the same distance as today in 2012. How far away was 2012 to today? It's not that far. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful about. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think people just need to understand that, things are actually going to be pretty crazy. And when it happens, you don't need to be surprised. No astrologer, there really wasn't an astrologer that predicted COVID exactly. They didn't predict pandemic with a lockdown. But every astrologer was like, 2020 is going to be really crazy. No one was really shocked that happened. I was more shocked that they locked down the world because I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know they could do that. But nonetheless, I was like, I knew something crazy was going to happen. If anything, it was more shocking that it actually happened. So I don't want you to be shocked over these next few years. Like, it might be surprising. It still might be startling, but don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. But just understand that you don't have, just like, for example, COVID changed people's lives for the better or for worse. For a lot of people, it was really good for them. And I'm not saying the war is going to be good for you. Heaven forbid I get fucking drafted, but I know if I get drafted. And people are like, oh, Cameron, you're not going to get drafted. I think it's like 80% of Gen Z men are overweight. Half of you want to blame, think that you're autistic or ADHD. A lot of women think they're not going to get a gun thrown at them. You are. If you are overweight, the military is going to probably Ozempic your ass at this point. But it's not just, 18 to like 25-year-olds. Like, they will, in Ukraine, they're drafting 60-year-old dudes. The rules are going to be bent a little bit. So anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to go over with this. I just wanted to actually formally acknowledge my prediction and what I got wrong. However, I'm still holding out for some things to happen, but until Donald Trump's in office, it is what it is. So I've got some more time for questions. If anyone wants to go over some questions or anything like that, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. It's really hard. Undeployables are plenty. The children will come through building it all back. That's interesting. So grateful to be a disabled woman right now. That depends. If you're like in a wheelchair, then you get away with that. But too many people are throwing around the word to say, oh my God, Oh my God. Can I vent for a moment? You're going to appreciate this. Knox, if you're disabled, you're going to appreciate this. Literally, I was in line going into an airplane. In front of me, there was a family of like 3 little boys, a mom and a dad. This mom, so this little boy, he's 6 or 7 years old, had a scooter, like a bigger Razor scooter he was riding around the airport with. Wow, already mind-blowing that you got to do that as a kid. I got a coloring book. So he's riding the scooter around, right? I'm already pissed off seeing this because the inner boomer in me is like, no, you're not allowed to ride a scooter at the airport. They're getting on the plane. The Frontier, flight attendant goes, hey, do you know where you're putting that? And they're like, yeah, we have this. And she goes, I'm pretty sure under the rules, this is a skateboard. So like, you're gonna have to do this. And the mom goes, no, this is ADA compliant. And I literally almost freaked the fuck out on her. I was like, your little shithead 6-year-old son in his scooter is not an ADA issue. That is you being a fucking bitch parent and giving your kid a scooter in the airport to just willy-nilly ride around. There's so many times where I'm like, I wish it was the 50s where like strangers can like beat your kids. Cause I'm just kind of like, I can't do this anymore. So anyway, I could not believe someone pulled out, oh, my son is allowed to ride his scooter in the airport and bring his scooter onto a plane because it's an ADA issue. And that she fucking checked it beforehand. Anyway, that's my, do what you think we'll have. I'm going to move on from a different thing. Do you think we'll ever have UFO verification? Yes, I have controversial views on that. Because ever since when you read about like Project Bluebeam, you're kind of like, oh, it's kind of like, it would take a lot for me to believe it. It would take a lot for me to believe it's not a psyop. And then also too, Jeff, there's an astrologer named Jeff Harem or something like that. Harem's cannot be his last name. It's Jeff something. He was on the Higher Side chats and he kind of broke shit down where I'm just kind of like, maybe the aliens are just like demons or something. I don't know. So I'm just more of like, yeah, probably an official confirmation. Yes. I kind of think it's a Pluto and Pisces thing in my opinion, which isn't till the 2040s. So we've got time. Gibson Murphy, thank you for the venting. Yes, I'm still moving. I'm out of this place in 2 weeks. I have to record my year ahead horoscopes. I think on Monday and Tuesday I have to record my year ahead horoscopes. They're going to be somewhere between an hour and 2 hours long. So I got like 24 hours of straight recording, and then I'm leaving on the 8th or 9th, something like that. I'm leaving on the 8th or 9th, but I already have a house now. So yes, thank you, Sid. I just popped in, so I didn't see the beginning thoughts. Forgive me, but going based off what you got wrong, does that mean astrology was wrong, or do you interpret it wrong? The astrology is never wrong. It's always the interpretation of it, just as like a general thing. Again, I mean, like just to kind of reiterate, I thought, and again, this is why I went live on my official election prediction was I wanted you guys to see how I thought. Kamala being just the vice president as her peak L1, peak L2 period would have made sense, right? Like she became vice president and that's as peak as it got. It could be more. I don't know. It's just, again, and this is why I was like, I don't think astrologers need to get beat up this time around. This one was a little bit hard. Wonder shows and beat kids that Mars in your sun right now, Cam. Oh, you don't even know what's going on with me. I'm on a sick one right now. I feel so good in really weird ways. Yeah, it's kind of like for me when people are like, oh my God, the UFOs, when are they going to tell us about aliens? I'm like, dude, it's just psyop. Like, I'm more interested in the whole Malaysian flight 1451 or something like that. The flight that went missing in 2014, I think something about that comes up over the next year. And when you look at the video and look at the stuff coming out, that's like, the government has the technology. That's the other reason. Like, there's a lot of people that think the U.S. wouldn't win World War III with China or Russia. Dude, we do not spend $1 trillion a year on the military and not have shit that we don't fucking talk about. We invent the shit that we have been doing for the past 80 years in the military that half of us don't even, like, we don't even know what's going on there. I refuse to believe that America's going to lose just because we spend too much money and we've got to have something up our sleeve. Answer to Project Bluebeam, laser pens, yeah. You know, and this is such a crack take I have. Like, if people are like, oh, aliens aren't demons, Cameron, I'm like, maybe they're not. I don't know. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm here on Earth right now. Okay. I don't want to worry. I don't need to, like, my opinion on the aliens doesn't matter. It doesn't. If you want to believe that aliens are our God or saviors, go for it. I don't care. Like, my opinion on this doesn't matter, to be honest with you. But that opinion, what I like about like aliens or demons is like, cool. I don't have to give a shit about it. In my opinion. Will you miss those windows? I will. This is the nicest apartment I've ever lived in, and it's great. It's just, it's so loud. I'm ready to dox before I leave, I'm going to dox myself on where I live. So you guys understand. Like, I'm going to literally record. I just don't want to dox myself yet in case you fucking weirdos show up to my fucking house. Anyway, it's so loud out here. I just can't do it. If this was just and I live in such a charming neighborhood. It's so perfect. If it was just not as loud, it would be perfect. But also, I don't even know what I'm doing in Denver anymore. I like Vegas. My whole family's in California. My life's in California. I want to be out there. And I can't stand the winter. Your video is amazing. Thank you. They have tech light years ahead. Yeah, aliens could be blah, blah, blah. A Martian's going to pop off. Yeah, I think the other thing, too, I'm interested in is I'm really interested in just this whole, again, I think the other reason why I've been more pro-Trump on this one is the difference between the next 4 years being like a Kamala administration versus Trump is like, again, the ship sinks no matter what. I think, so it doesn't really matter who's captain, right? But do I want the captain that's telling me the ship isn't sinking, or do I want the captain that's like just making it entertaining? I just want to be entertained at this point. Like, I keep hearing this, like, politics are the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. I want to be entertained, like, at the end of the day. Like, I thought, again, my favorite time in politics was when the COVID first hit and Trump and Fauci would go on one after another during a press conference and just say the exact opposite of what the other one was saying. That was really entertaining for me. Of just be like, oh, no one really knows what's going on. Yeah, dude, Denver sucks. Tim Dillon has a joke that's like, Denver's one bad mayor away from becoming Portland, and it genuinely is. I saw a thing the other day that Denver's like it's like 47th in safety. Like, I was in Vegas, I felt so good there, versus here, it's like there's the amount of and Denver was nice a decade ago, 10 years ago. It was. I used to make fun of people for saying Denver was like ghetto, versus now I'm like, it's literally, I don't even like being here anymore. It's not cool. Look what 9/11 caused nuke on New York City. Don't know what you're saying. Can't stand noise. Yeah, I have Pisces ruling my fourth house. I need the quiet space. And again, I've got this drum set sitting right here that I can't even really play, but I'm going to be in a house so I can play it and set it up. So I'm really excited about that because, like, I'm just a drummer. It's why I almost want to buy a dirt bike. Like, I grew up playing drums and riding dirt bikes my whole life. Like, I did not do astrology. Like, I don't move my body enough from what I used to. No, I'm from California, but I go back and forth from the IE in LA all the time. Like, I do music, so like, I need to like have like, again, and like there's somewhat of a music scene in Denver, but like if I live in Vegas, I work, at home. Like, I could spend a weekend doing, whatever pop-up shows in LA and figure it out. That's why I left LA. I'll have to compile this. I lived in LA during the pandemic, and I had this neighbor, this fucking bitch. She literally would leave her apartment, sit in her convertible car. It was like this pink Chrysler 200 convertible with big eyelashes. So you already hated this person. She would drop the top down. She would blare radio music, not Spotify. Again, it's 2020. People have Spotify. She would blare the radio. And I mean, when I say blare, I mean like obnoxiously loud. Not like, oh yeah, you turn it up, like blare. And she would do it for like 3 hours from like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. She'd blare it, just sit in her car. And then she would turn off her car and walk back inside. I lost my mind. It was like, and I think I yelled at her right before I left too, because I was just like, I was fucking over it. But she was I'll put it to you, she was one of those people that like was just looking for a confrontation. Because I mean, I said something, she's like, blah, 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 and I was like, I can't do it anymore. But that was LA. And again, in LA, if you lived in LA in 2020, the fireworks for 2020 were so insane. It was like a war zone. It was so fucking loud. But no, Vegas. Oh, back to California camp. If California wasn't so horribly ran, and I was allowed to, have my gun with, 30 round mags, then I would be more open. It's just the price that you pay. That's what's great about Vegas. Vegas is you get all of the affordability, you get all of the access to California that you want without any of the bullshit. That's why I'm going back. I think astrologers can't handle any differing opinion whatsoever, and they're weak-spined, and they're afraid to see anything for what it is. So that's my opinion. But I also don't blame them, because I signed up for Twitter again. I had a stalker account over the summer, and I'm pretty conservative nowadays. And I was on it. I was like, dude, this is just it's genuinely just a right-wing circle jerk there. Versus for example, it's just I don't blame them for it. I'm surprised they stayed on Twitter for so long, because just Twitter and these social medias that are about seeing other opinions inundated in your face 24/7. That I just don't think they're going to be good. That's why I've invested my time into Instagram, because Instagram's fake. It's look, this person's pretty, this person's hot, this person's doing this cool thing. Versus Twitter's the end of this nation is nigh. You are going to die. Anyone who's not the exact same political affiliation with me is going to be, genocided. If you believe in the genocide happening in Gaza, then, you also deserve to see your family die. It's way too fucking intense over there. See you later, Knox. Thank you. Let's see. El Salvador. Yeah, especially now. Denver DIA, yeah. I visited Denver for the first time this summer and saw a butt-ass naked homeless man right away. Yeah, I've had the amount of interesting confrontations I've had with, and again, here's my thing. I've talked shit about the homeless people on my channel. People are like, Cameron, you're so mean to homeless people. Because here's the thing, it's not homeless people, it's drug addicts. My family's drug addicts. I got family that live on the streets. It's not about sympathy. It's about the state gives them Narcan and gives them needles to do all this shit. They just litter around the street, and then they literally harass women and attack people. And Denver's like, you just need a house. That's why you're on drugs, harming people and yourself. It's literally I just don't have the patience for it anymore. Vegas is so cool. There's so many weirdos in Vegas. I've lived in Vegas. This is my 4th time living in Vegas. I'm a Libra moon. I can't fucking decide where but I love Vegas. I'm super excited to move back. Ryan, if you guys don't know Ryan Lynch, he's the most base person ever, doing the most liberal job, most liberal degree ever. And it's really funny to hear him talk about what he's up to. Thank you, Gibson. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, it's all here. Not much longer. That's why Vegas is becoming a new Hollywood. Atlanta's becoming a new Hollywood. New Mexico. And again, I got a lot of shit thrown at me when I said this in my videos, but during the writer's strike in 2023, and I was like, what? This strike is dumb. And everyone's like, no, Cameron, they deserve. It's no. Paramount, Miramax, all this shit, let them die. Go independent. Everything's moving independent in the next 2 years anyway. If all of those writers literally said, okay, let's move on, venture capital would open up, they would get investment, and you would actually have a good entertainment industry versus the regurgitated bullshit that we have nowadays. Oh my God, there's a movie that's coming out. It's what fucking movie is it? It's a real life adaptation of a cartoon, and I can't remember what it is. And it's just, again, just nothing's original. But again, having access to things I think is going to be really important. I just refuse, unless I can have a $20 million mansion in Malibu, then I can live in LA. I could take it, because then I could just fly private in and out of there as I please. But as where my financial standing is right now, it does not, I don't want my money going to California or the time and the patience. I'd rather live in Vegas, enjoy big house, no income tax, do whatever the hell I want, good food, not in traffic all the time. And then when I need to go to California, go to California. This is, you know me, you're on the fucking, memberships. I'm always ranting. I've thought about being a streamer at this point. The way streamers get all of these things, I'm like, dude, but this is me being a Leo. I'm like, I have such good opinions. I could do all this all day long. Fuck Boise. I have family that lives up in Coeur d'Alene. I can't do Boise. No, I gotta do. Denver's way too far east. This is as far as east as I could ever go. I'm a West Coast guy. I can't do it. I can't do the cold. I got to do the heat. I'm a desert rat at the end of the day. I know Peace Dealer's there. The whole Rich Lop drama, I don't know what the hell is up with that, but I've heard there was drama around that, so I don't know. But I know some people in Vegas. I have so many friends in Vegas. I know I have like at least 20 people that I'm like I talk to on a regular basis that live there. This is funny. This is the move. Make Blue Sky just as horrible as everything else. Oh man, it's hard to getting scrolling. There's so much. Avoid Atlanta. So I almost when I was DJing weddings, I was offered a opportunity to apply as a city manager because I was that good. Subtle flex. And in an alternative timeline, I would have taken that job and I would have opened the first DJ office for my company in Atlanta. And so I would have been a wedding DJ in Atlanta, which I'm so glad I didn't do. But it was like, I felt respected. It was like, oh, I have a big boy job. I can go and do something serious. And I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. But okay, so this is the thing. If you guys know Helena Woods, she's a good friend of mine. She's an astrocartographer. I want to go to her and like do my astrocartography, but the other thing is I'm so like, it's got to be if my perfect line was just it doesn't matter if it was in like again Raleigh, North Carolina, I'd be like, oh, is it really that good? Like I just like being over here better. But my moon midheaven line is in between, like pretty much over St. George, Kingman. It's in that area. So again, my Mars descendant line is over in like here I could show you guys. My Mars descendant line is, oh gosh, you know what's the problem is there's about 10,000 Cam White birth charts. Because again, I've got every solar return chart. I've got every synastry chart of every person I've ever met in my life. Hold on, Cam White. And then I have like a couple versions that aren't good. Let me show you my astrocartography. There we go. All right, got it. So, let's see if Astro Gold decides to work. And Astro Gold doesn't work. It's amazing that this is a $300 software and it can't do its job. Anyway, but it's my moon midheaven line. Let's see. How to Tame Your Dragon. Yes, that is the movie that they're doing like a real life adaptation to, which is so annoying. I hated that. Hold on. Where have you been? You don't know about the drumming? You don't know about the music? Spike of Music. Go to my page. Y'all need to stream my music. I also haven't launched. I have probably one song I need to launch just to get rid of it, and then I've got an EP coming out probably next spring. Okay, you're Leo too. Arizona's too hot and there's nothing going on there. That's why I like Vegas. Like Vegas is like, I can go and gamble. I can go and hike. I can there's good food everywhere. I lived in Kingman for a little while when I was like a kid with my dad. It sucked, but Arizona is so beautiful. Like Payson, I like hiking the Hualapai. I got family that lives in Parker and Havasu. Havasu's great. So I've talked a lot about doing an event. If I'm moving to Vegas, I'm doing an event. Like events are coming. I'm coming to a city near you. You guys better show up, by the way. I'm coming to a city near you, and it's going to be epic. And when I post about it on YouTube and Instagram and you didn't come, you're going to fucking feel like you missed out. Because like, I don't think, and this is the reason why. The astrology community throws these conferences that are super lame. They're not fun. They're not cool. I want to throw a cool, fun party where people who are into astrology get to come together and meet other people into astrology and bring that vibe. That's what I do. And that's what I'm going to do. So like, I'm thinking next spring, probably around like the March, April time I think I'm going to do an event in New York and in LA. And that's going to build up to a big, big, big event in Vegas that I've already like priced out. Like I've already got huge plans for it. So yeah, my moon midheaven line for whoever asked, let me move this here, is right here. Let's see. Astro Gold. God, you think it's like Internet Explorer. Yeah, here's Vegas. Here's my moon midheaven line. Anyway, okay. Cam at more raves is what we need. Yeah, it's gotta be an artist I want to go see. Leo Sun, yes, Leo Sun, Libra Moon, Sag Rising. I always find this interesting when people are like, wait, this is your big three. I'm like, I feel like I talk about my chart all of the time. You're sweet, you're based. Thanks, Ryan. I'm clearly behind on comments, by the way. Phoenix is my place to be. Make some sort of rhythm. No. EDM is what I'm doing. So can I flex for a minute? What I'm doing is there's nothing that sounds like that. And I know that's a cringy thing as an artist to say, is like, oh, no one sounds like me. But no one does, because what my music is a really good blend of really heavy electronic music. Like there's a huge influence of like bass. But there's also an influence of like 90s, like rock and metal vocal. That's essentially what I am, is like heavy electronic bass music that's progressive with a rock vocal on top of it. That's what my music is. And it's really weird. I got like one song that did a little bit of numbers. The rest didn't. But this next EP is like, I'm really honing in on that sound. And I think it's going to do really, really well, because I think that's what the market wants. I'm new, forgive me. Hey, Gibson Chickadee. I've lived everywhere in the country. I settled in Ozarks. Oh, so I went to the Ozarks for the first time. I have like 2 cemeteries in Arkansas that are all my family, and I went out there in 2021. I did not know how pretty northern Arkansas is. It's insane. I would love to be at the Sphere. If you come to Dallas, I will go, sir. I was thinking about doing an event in Austin. I feel like I would just have a better if I did. So I'm thinking LA and New York for sure. Maybe Miami, maybe Austin, just because I think I would have an easier time bringing in people from both Dallas and San Antonio and Austin into an event. And Austin hosting an astrology thing would be, I just feel like on par. I've also thought about Chicago. I think Chicago would be also another thing to look into, because I actually have a lot of people in Chicago. Gosh, so many comments. Don't forget to go to Canada. Why? I don't want to go there. I could die happily without ever stepping foot in Canada. There's nothing I want to go see there. I could see everything I need to see from Detroit or Seattle. Like Vancouver's pretty, but like if someone had a gun to my head and say, you're going to get everything you want in life, but you'll never step foot in Canada, I wouldn't even think about it twice. Like, yeah, sure. That's fine with me. I don't care. Let me come produce for you. I produce all my own music. That's all I do. Cam, how is the Neptune square Mars going for you? I don't know, dude. I've stopped. I've leaned into the delusion. I've become Neptune. Neptune has been squaring my ascendant, my Mars, my Venus for so long. It's just another day, to be honest with you. Well, I teach astrology. You should come join my membership. And I teach astrology in the most affordable way possible. Typically it's going to be Western, ancient modern astrology. There's no real title for it, but mostly just Western. All right. Like seeing Russia from Alaska. Okay. I caught up on all of the comments. Wow. There was a lot there. But yeah, there's so yeah, Vegas is on the thing. I already have a house in Vegas. I'm super excited for it. This is my chart. I forgot I was showing you guys my chart. This is my chart. Here's, by the way, if the people that are like, oh my God, you're not allowed to look at my chart. Just shut up. Like, it's like, no one's going to cast a spell on your chart and curse you. Just like, ugh. It's so dumb. Anyway, hold on. What's this? Candace Owens had a guest come in and talk about the Malaysian flight. I got into this a couple months ago. The shit around the Malaysian flight is generally like, wait, what? There's drone footage that can be like proved that it was like a military asset of like it going missing, and there was like a satellite. There's generally enough there that makes me go, no. Like, it didn't just disappear one day. Something happened there. There's enough evidence for me to at least be open-minded to something different. No water placements. Change that with a heart. Thank God I don't have water placements. Thank the Lord. But the other issue is I just went off on my the next 2 weeklies I'm posting. You guys, I go off. I think if you don't absolutely like David Goggins level go for like a marathon run after it, I don't know what to tell you, because I go off on them. They're very inspirational. But Scorpio rules my 12th house, Cancer rules my 8th, Pisces rules my 4th. I have water in my chart. Pisces ruling my 4th is really important. And I do have my lot of fortune in Pisces too, which, I guess is something. It's not a real thing, but July Leo. Yeah. I mean, that's how I got into astrology. A lot of you don't know. I got into astrology because I thought I was a Cancer my whole life, because I'm a 0 Leo. I thought it was, everyone's like, July 22nd, you're Cancer. And long story short, someone's like, "You're not a Cancer, you're a cusp," and I was like, "Huh?" And then I found a birth chart, and I was like, "Whoa!" And now I'm here. July Leos are the best. Yeah, Nicole, I was thinking about you earlier today. Was it today? I was just thinking about the Mars retrograde. Like, I hope you're doing what the fuck we talked about. I really do. Your book is coming, by the way. I know. I pretty much, so I doing VIP books. If you guys see it on my website, I could charge a bunch of money to do VIP sessions, but I'm writing a book. Had one way of doing it, which was going to involve AI. That didn't work. So now I'm handwriting like 5 fucking books, and it's a lot to do while doing everything else. Your south node is on my sun. Oh, that's interesting. Well, so with all of that, I've got maybe time for a few more questions. There's a stake that I have to place into my stomach really soon, because if the steak doesn't go into my stomach, bad things will happen on this earth. So I got to eat a steak. But let's do a few more questions here. Yeah, we are. Yes, Gibson, Pisces Sun, Sag Moon, Virgo rising. I'm awesome. No, you're confused. You're giving me anxiety. July Leo makes so much more sense to be on the internet. Yeah, well, it's super funny. I was just talking about this with someone the other day. So the sun is all about exposure, right? Being seen. I have it in Leo, so it's in its domicile. It's very strong, and it's in its joy. And the ninth house rules social media and publishing and broadcasting. I have been like internet famous on every platform I've done. I used to have a big Tumblr back in the day. When I was in high school, I was a weed blog, and I had like, I think at the peak, like 26,000 subscribers or something like that. Yeah, I had about like 26,000 subscribers on my Tumblr or whatever it's called, followers on my weed blog. Then I deleted that, went on Twitter. Dude, I was doing 20 million impressions a month on Twitter when I fucking deleted it. Like every tweet was a fucking banger. Deleted that because I couldn't stand it anymore. YouTube, it's not that big, but it's something. And now Instagram, I'm finally fucking doing some numbers. I got to blow up a little bit more on there. But it's like every social media I've ever had, I've always been big on. And it's also the ninth house rules astrology. Like this, my ninth house is really holding my chart together, in my opinion. I am a Cancer rising with a stellium in Aquarius, whole sign house. Am I cooked? Yeah, you're pretty cooked. I used to do chart roastings, but I just feel like they're too mean. And like, I know when you're like an astrologer, or like when you are into astrology, an astrologer says one comment about your chart, you just hold on to it forever. And so I really want to do chart roastings again because they're fun, but people really do hold on to that. But you are cooked. You can hold on to that, but you don't have to be cooked. I mean, you could be cooked and the perfect way. Morgan, you did miss the meat. You were here a minute ago. Where did you go? What sign's like the most bloodiest steak? I don't know, but me, I like it rare. I like it cold. I like it still mooing. I've thought about, like, I would love, so apparently you can go and hunt monkey with the Hadza tribe in Africa and eat their brains. I kind of want to go do it. I don't know. What are they up to? What does monkey brain taste like? Cooked over a campfire. Sounds fun. I would never do that. Like I've told this to people. It's like when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Like I would never eat monkey brain here in America. But if I'm out in Africa and I'm like hunting with the Hadza and I kill a monkey with a spear, I'm fucking eating the brain if everyone else is eating the brain. Do you like being a Leo? It's the only thing I know. How would you be different if you were an Aries, like your past life? Because you're going off the South Node stuff. I don't know. I'd probably be the same. I love being a Leo. I think people that are like, oh, Leos are self-centered and make everything about themselves. Like, who? Like, I saw a thing. It was like, oh, you're so full of yourself. And someone's like, what? Who else am I supposed to be full of? Like, sorry, you suck. Just kidding. I have Mars conjunct Venus and Gemini too. This is the troublemaker in my chart. Is that thing, not my sun in Leo. What else is going on? You can roast me. No. August Leo, yeah. What would you say is the worst part of your chart? I'm going to be real with y'all. I'm going to be real. My chart kicks some ass. Like, I can't sit here and be like, oh, this part sucks. I mean, I have Mars on my descendant. That's hard. That sucks. Other people would probably say it sucks as well because it has to deal with other people. But Yeah, my chart kicks ass. I mean, like Saturn and Aries sucks ass. Jupiter squaring Saturn sucks ass, but it's like one of those things where like I just know what I'm doing here. Like, I'll put it to you this way. Here's the thing with astrology. If you would stop blaming your fucking chart on your problem, and it's like playing poker and like, oh, I got a 5 of clubs and a 6 of spades. What am I gonna do? That's like how you guys act. It's like you bluff. You bluff. You see what the river is. You see what the flop is. You play off their emotions. You don't just go, oh, I got a 5 and a 6. Do you know how many times in poker you'll see someone get a king ace or get a king king, and then like someone like on the flop they just like just don't even get it. Like someone's got like a full house. Like there's so many times you'll see shit like that. Like stop blame. Like the reason my chart kicks ass is because I've learned how to fucking use it at this point. And at a certain point, you just gotta you gotta dance with the one that you brought. You gotta accept what it is that you got, and you've got to fucking be the best person at it. Like. I cannot stand the victim mentality in astrology. Like, it's such a circle jerk of people like, oh, woe is me, I'm more oppressed than you. And it's like, ugh. And it's one of those things, no wonder why no one thinks astrology is real and no one wants to get into it, because it's just a bunch of whiners and crybabies about being victims and why their life sucks. Now, don't get me wrong, astrology can show you a lot of linear things with that, but at the end of the day, that's what this is. Like, so you just got to be better at this. Anyway, all right, I'm out of here, LMAO. Okay. Bye, Peyton. Okay. Whew. Gosh, I got to catch up on these comments. This is a lot. All right. I think I'm starting to get hungry, and I get overwhelmed reading these comments. I don't know how these live streamers do. So I'm going to wrap up with that. This was a fun video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys agree with all my opinions because they're the correct ones, to be honest. Sorry. Don't know what else to tell you there. And I'll see you guys around. So, see ya.